Jack Ham, partner, welcome. Great to have you with us.
Well, thank you, Steve. I think it might be the other way around, but it's a fun time to be broadcasting Penn State football.
It is. So, Jack, is there a certain consistency to this team that you've noticed as each game has gone by?
Well, I think the big thing that I noticed midway in the season, when you go on the road, you play a tough Southern Cal team, and you get behind. Go on the road, a tough Minnesota team, and you get behind to them as well. There was no panic in this football team. You're down by 10 against Minnesota. You just continue to work at it. You know the plays will come both on offense and defense, and you ended up pulling out tough football games on the road. That's the consistent thing that has happened all year with this football team, and I think they just gained confidence in every game. So, and you saw the end product here against Maryland on Saturday.
When you look at Drew Aller and the progression that he has made at quarterback, Jack, it's now to the point where he's about to make the 26th start of his career. What kind of difference does that make in the guy that we're seeing now compared to the guy we saw maybe in his 10th or 11th start?
Well, I think a lot of people have, taken him for granted. I mean, he's at a 71% completion clip right now, and everybody thinks it's a ho-hum year he's having. He has been very consistent. I just love the fact that he was able to make plays in the fourth quarter to bring our team back. And it's not, looking downfield and running with the football, but looking downfield, finding the open receiver. The fourth down play at Minnesota that sealed the game is a good example. I mean, initial read is not there to Singleton out in the flat. He thought maybe he could run with it, which he's been able to do a lot this year. But then he sees out of the corner of his eye, and I'm sure he's got great peripheral vision. He was able to come back and find Warren back on the backside and get him the football. Those kind of plays where he's looking to make a big play downfield rather than run with it. And then when he does run with the football, it's a key situation and keeps drives alive.
Jack, we are the only broadcast in the country where we have to identify the quarterback on every play. And that means, of course, every once in a while it's Tyler Warren. The versatility of Warren, I mean, we knew he was capable of it, Jack, but to see it play out in real time, what's it been like for you to watch this guy play so many different spots and make a difference in all those spots?
Well, Steve, I've been around football a long time, both playing and obviously broadcasting as well. And to see the things that he can do on the football field are just amazing. And I talked to James about the fact of, teams that are going into a game and trying to take away Tyler from our offense, but it's very, very difficult because we're lining him up in so many different places. We're shifting him out. We're motioning him out. He's staying in the backfield. So many different things. It's very hard to try to get a double team on him, and we're just been able to work himself free so many different times against that zone defense. He's too strong for a defensive back. He out physicals that. And then for a linebacker, he's quicker than the linebacker. So he's a bad mismatch for a lot of defenses. And even when they're trying to target him, it's so difficult. But the one thing I loved about last week, he put a flare pass out to Singleton as an ex-quarterback from high school, put the ball out in front with great timing, just enough for Singleton to get the ball, keep his momentum going forward, and just barely get a first down downfield. All those little things that he has done, the short yardage, all of that, I have not seen a football player make this kind of an impact on a team as much as Tyler.
And you watch him play. You weren't there yesterday, but you'll be there obviously tomorrow and Friday. But you watched him make a play yesterday, I did, and it was a ball that's no way you should catch. He made it look effortless, and it seems like he makes all of this look effortless.
Well, Steve, he's got really good body control at 6'6", 60, and the out pattern he ran, he just got position on the defensive back last week, and it's an 8 or 9 yard out pattern. The ball is right there, and plus, I'll tell you what, the timing right now between Aller and Tyler has just been outstanding. On a couple times he'll line up in the slot and run the out pattern. The ball, he turns out of the break and the ball's right there. Those kind of timing, you can't defend those kind of plays. I don't care what kind of defensive back you have back there. That's just too good a timing they have right now. And I think they just got a feel for each other right now, which makes that offense so much better.
How important is it going to be moving forward? Last week it was, I think, Amari Evans to a point. If they could get both Evans and Wallace into the mix to go with Warren, what kind of difference can that make for Penn State?
Well, you're talking about at each level in the passing game. I mean, if you get Amari Evans, because he can run that post pattern, he's probably one of the fastest guys on the team. And he caught a touchdown pass a couple weeks ago and also just missed one as well. But to stretch the defense there, and then with our tight end, we just talked about Warren, but also you have Singleton at that third level, which is out in the flat. And then you get him the football in open field. That triple level, as we've seen over the course of many different years here at Penn State, is tough to handle when you get the protection to get rid of the football. And one of those three are going to be open. And if you have to drop it down to Singleton, that's a mismatch.
Katron Allen, of course, has done Katron Allen things this year. But Singleton has that burst, and he's back to really just about 100%, Jack. What kind of difference has that made for Penn State the last couple of weeks?
Well, I think it's been a big difference all year in the passing game because I think they came into preseason camp with the idea of getting Allen and Singleton involved in the passing game, and they have done that this year. I mean, out of the backfield or the one-on-one routes with Singleton or the wheel route, and getting the football to their backs out of the backfield, especially down on the goal line. Like I said, on that fourth down play, they were trying to get the ball to Singleton, and Minnesota did a great job of covering him up, and that's why Aller had to go to the backside. But those two guys have made a huge impact on this passing game, and I think it's a big reason why Drew Aller right now has a 71% completion average.
To show you how much I have matured in watching the game, I want to talk about now the smartest position on the field, and that's linebacker. I mean, have I come a long way or what? I mean, I've come a long way, haven't I?
Yeah.
So Kobe King, I think early on, always has been great against the run, but now you see him in the pass. What does it mean to have an every down linebacker that you're not giving away packages because of personnel in the field?
Well, I think it goes back to preseason camp, Steve. And when we're working on from the 10 or 15-yard line in, what normally is with the corner on the wide receiver or the safety on a tight end, but we also had those guys one-on-one, against our linebackers. And our linebackers, Tony Rojas does a great job in the passing game, but Kobe King just made himself better each and every year. He's much more mature in that Mike position. He finds the football, but down on the goal line when it's one-on-one coverage, he is not a liability, but he's more of an asset out there because he's done a great job. Right. And they worked at it. These guys have worked at the passing game because if you just play the run, you play the run tough, but you're out there in the passing situation, which is a big part of 2024 college football. You don't want to be a liability in that passing game, and they are not. Kobe King and Tony Rojas do a great job. Dominic DeLuca, I've been touting him so long. Our linebacking crew this year has just been outstanding all year long, but especially when they go into the passing situation, they make some big plays, and Tony Rojas has come up with a couple of interceptions.
What is it about DeLuca, Jack? When you watch him play the game, what allows him to get maybe an extra step and a half that puts him in the right position?
Well, first of all, his vision. What he sees out there, he reacts to very quickly. He did that on the drop for the interception against Minnesota. He gets underneath. He feels the route run behind it. He understands the passing game, what offenses are trying to do in the passing game. When you play a zone defense like he was on that play, he's got to make sure that ball it does not come out on a line, but over top of his head where now the safeties have a chance to make a play on the football. He understands that part of the passing game, made a great drop about 12 to 15 yards, got underneath the route. But the biggest play, I mean, as an old linebacker, watching him cover a wide receiver because you're in the red zone area, he understands that there's not a lot of real estate. He understands to get underneath that route and make the ball go over his head, which it did for an incomplete pass, and they had to settle for a field goal. Those are the things. When he sees something out of the field, he anticipates that. He doesn't guess, but he anticipates, and he's there to make the play. He's not the most gifted guy out there, but he may be one of the smartest on defense. He's kind of like Tyler Warren of the defensive side of the ball, where he is just a smart football player and makes those kind of plays all the time.
That play on Spencer, the wide receiver for Minnesota, was an unbelievably outstanding play. Linebacker on wide out, and he cut off the pathway. Brosmer had no choice but to throw it away.
Exactly. He understands where you have to stand down in distance. You understand you're in that red zone area. You got to be aggressive underneath. If he does not do that, and if he gets too high on the play, now the quarterback can drill the football, and you end up missing on that play. So Luka understood that, stayed a little bit shallow to make sure he's underneath the receiver and make the ball go over your head. There's no way that ball gets in there for a touchdown because the back of the end zone has to go over to Luka, and he just caused an incredible incomplete pass on a third down play where they're trying to get in for the touchdown. He forced the field goal.
Up front, Abdul Carter makes the move from linebacker to defensive end. He still plays some linebacker from time to time based on third down packages. He ends up being the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Denied Dennis Sutton. Inexplicably, Zane Durant is honorable mention and not one of the first three teams, but that's just my opinion on something like that. What can that front, I know they mean a lot in every game, but what can it mean in this game against a Dillon Gabriel?
Well, first of all, this front has just gotten better and better each week, and Zane Durant has just played phenomenal football from that inside tackle position all year long. But we're going to have to get pressure on the quarterback because Gabriel's the guy. I mean, he makes everything go for this football team. I mean, they've got an outstanding running game. They got balance in their offense. They can throw the football downfield. They average, I think, 448 yards per game. But
right.
It's going to start up front. And when I talk to these guys tomorrow and Friday, that defensive line will feel that the responsibility is on them against the running game, but also putting the pressure on the quarterback and making sure you stay in your lane because the quarterback, Gabriel, will, in fact, run with the football. Has made some key third down runs, keep drives alive for his offense to stay on the field. And that's another, I think maybe the biggest key on their third down conversions are right around 49%. That is so high offense, and we're going to have to make sure our defensive line, especially, gets them off the field.
Yeah, that's the other part. People don't realize. I mean, Penn State on the other side is 47%. So you got two teams that have the ability to keep their offenses on the field. Which one buckles in that situation? We'll find out. Jalen Reed and Zakee Wheatley, the two safeties. Obviously, there's no Winston, but how impressed have you been by those two back there?
Well, I think we expected Jalen Reed. I think coming into this year, in the preseason camp, when you and I talked, we knew Jalen Reed was going to be a big factor. Obviously, it changed with KJ being injured and out for the entire season, and he has been as advertised. He's made big plays. Made a big play in the Wisconsin game. He can also bait the quarterback into throwing the football downfield and then driving on an interception. He thrives, and he loves the fact that he can pick off the interception downfield. And a guy like Wheatley, who is just a solid open field tackler. He's almost like a half linebacker out there. He's very physical at 200 pounds. He's made a lot of good open field tackles where you're not going for technique on your tackle. You're trying just to get people on the ground so there's no yards after the catch. And Wheatley has done that all year, punched the football out on the goal line against Ohio State to cause that turnover. Those guys have been outstanding, and it's going to be a challenge for them as well. Like I said, not only the running game for Oregon, but they've got outstanding wide receivers. Stewart might be the best one, and Johnson is now back and healthy. So our secondary is going to be challenged in this game as well. Probably the biggest challenge this football team has had all year long.
As I said to somebody, I said, you get to this time of the year, everybody plays really good.
Yeah, you're playing against the number one team in the country. They don't have many weaknesses.
I mean, when you've looked at them, Jack, what do you like about them?
Well, I like the balance, and I think they're patient with their running game. You average 179 yards rushing or 170 yards rushing a game. Well, I tell you, it makes the life for your quarterback a whole lot easier back there. You got to honor play action, and then times he gets out of the pocket and he'll run at times. And it just seems like the time you think you're going to get off the field with him, he ends up getting out of the pocket, scrambling and throwing the football or running with the football to keep those drives alive, which gives them another possession and the opportunity with all their skilled people. But I really believe it does start with James, their running back, and if they're able to run the football effectively all day long against the Penn State defense, we're going to have problems because I think it all feeds off of that. And if we can stop the running game and get them into passing situation where they have to throw the football, that would be an advantage Penn State.
Jack, it's been an incredible run to this point, and there's still more to be played. Looking forward to Saturday night.
I am too. I'm Steve. I think back to playing Oregon right now. I think this team is looking forward to it, and I can't wait for Saturday to get here.
Jack Ham, my broadcast partner, 25 seasons and growing. Okay. Oh, man. We'll come back with more in a moment here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
News Radio 1070 WKOK delivers everything you need to know.
Hey, Steve. It seems like I've seen you and Jack more than I've seen my wife this year. I don't know.
That's not good, Brad. That's not a good thing. That's because I said...
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great because I said to my wife on Friday, hey, by the way, I said, basketball Thursday, basketball Tuesday next week. I said, I've got the weekend off. Oh, great. I came home from the game Saturday. I said, there's been a change in plans.
Well, you probably would have been maybe better off if you had the weekend off and then just sit back and get a nice home game as a 5 seed or whatever. But the way it is, I think this is pretty cool. We got number 1 against number 3, so we'll take it, right? So,
and you and I both know the difference of seeing somebody in person. It to me, it makes all the difference in terms of perception of a team. I haven't seen Oregon in person, but you have. When you've seen them, what strikes you about them?
I think the biggest thing that would strike people that haven't watched them, because I think you think of Oregon and you think of 50 different uniforms and all kinds of offense and everything, I think you'd be surprised at their offensive and defensive lines and how good their defense is. They still don't, they're still kind of unnoticed. Somebody said to me yesterday, are they the most unmistakable number 1 team, or are they most unremarkable number 1 team that nobody knows anything about? And I would say the latter. They've just kind of been laying in the weeds, which ducks do, as we know, just sitting out there in the pond in Eugene. And I think they're under the radar for being a number 1 team in the country, because I don't know that people have seen them enough. Ohio State people know that they're going to see Penn State and they're going to see Michigan and they're going to see their Nittany Lions and all of that. But just being new to the conference and coming in, from the West Coast, I think everybody still has the perception, West Coast, flash and dash, a lot of offense, a lot of speed, and no defense, and defensive lines aren't physical. That would be the thing that would stand out, I think, is that's what Dan Lanning's built in his 3 years, is he knew coming from the SEC and going to the Big Ten, got to be physical every week and have to have depth on both lines, and he's put a pretty nice team together.
Yeah, because I told people when they'd ask me about the matchup, I said, look, you're going to have 4 of the better defensive ends in the country on the same field at the same time. Because, I see what you see, at least on video. Like, those defensive ends can flat out play for that team.
Yeah, and, their 2 tackles, their left tackle, Connerly, is first team All-Big Ten, and their right tackle is second team All-Big Ten. And so that matchup with, Dennis Sutton and Abdul, that's going to be so much fun to watch. I know that we're going to be zoomed in on that, and we'll probably do a little more pit framing, just because watching those guys is going to be as much fun as watching the skill position guys.
Well, the running joke I've had with people around here with having you on the show, I said, the play-by-play announcer that's seen Penn State the most has been me. Number 2 is Brad. Yeah. So when you have seen Penn State, pro and con, what has stuck out to you?
I don't have a lot of cons, I don't think. The Minnesota game was, I think, one you had to gut out a little bit, and you also had to surprise some people, and the fake punt to put that in the hands of a freshman, that was awesome. Mm-hmm. Now, had it not worked, it would have been, James would have been the dumbest guy in the world, but right. It worked, and so that was guts. The resiliency of probably the 4th down drive against USC when you had to have it, 4th downs on that winning drive. So, and to get it and win it in overtime. And then, I've just seen you blow people away. So, I mean, there's two kind of ways to look at it. And then there's my guy that definitely is on my Heisman list, and I vote, and I don't say who I vote for eventually, but right. I hope he makes it to New York, is Tyler Warren. I think he's the best football player in the country, and the best football player, period. He's not the fastest, he's not the biggest, he's not the flashiest. That's Travis Hunter, and that's some of the other guys. But if I was drafting somebody and I was in the market for a tight end / H-back / do everything, I'd pick him first. So, watching him play, and every time I've had you guys, you and I have said that out in the behind the booth. I can actually tell people it's probably in the bathroom, but anyway, you said what's with Tyler Warren? Every time CBS has him, he goes off, and he's just been fun to watch.
Yeah, he has been fun to watch. And look, Hunter has the distinction. Look, he's playing like 105 plays a game, offense, defense. Yeah. I understand that. Have you seen a player on offense used in so many different spots as Warren over your recent time?
No, never. I don't think it's ever. It was probably done in two-way football.
Sure.
When you could have been a guard, and they might have put you at fullback, and they needed an extra tight end. Back in the day, but nothing with the versatility of what Andy's done with him. And I mean, the all-timers, the USC, playing center, the double pass. I'll never forget that play, and neither will you. And you called it beautifully, by the way.
So
but just the kind of versatility that he has, and I mean, he plays them all well. And the coaches say you should see him throw in practice. I said I've seen his 2 or 3 passes. They're not that great, but he was a quarterback back in the day. So I mean, I'm talking about a guy that can do everything.
Yeah, no question. Dillon Gabriel is making his 500th consecutive start. No, I'm just kidding. I'll be honest. All the games I've done, I've never seen a guy with 147 career touchdown passes until this guy. When you look at him, what makes him just a cut above as a college quarterback to you?
He's seen it all, being at 3 different schools, 3 different systems. They're similar, but he doesn't get rattled. And when you meet the kid in person, he doesn't get overly excited. There's a smile there and all that, but he's really level-headed and down to earth. And he still drives a minivan. I mean, I don't know how much money he's making with NIL, but he's driving around in a minivan. And he says, "Well, I can get more linemen in there to take them to dinner." So I mean, he's just really solid. Doesn't make a lot of mistakes. He's really accurate. When he has to move around in the pocket, he can. He does more with his legs than people give him credit for. Like you said, he's really a college quarterback. When you look at him, you go, I don't know, at the next level. But then, you go, well, who's he built like? And he's built a little like Tua, and it's not because he's left-handed. He's just really big in the butt and the legs. He's not a slight guy at all. He's short, but he's not small. Let's put it that way. And he can make every throw, and I don't know. He knows where his guys are at all times, and he knows where his checkdowns are. And he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. The few I've seen him make, he comes right back from that mistake, and all of a sudden he's got 3 touchdown passes and 1 on the ground.
When Gary and you have looked at Drew, what has been the prevailing feeling about his game at this point?
Well, man, he's improved so much. I mean, not just completion percentage and all of that, but I think his command of the offense. I think what Kotelnicki's done with him on getting the ball down the field better. Penn State's receivers, are they elite? No. Are they good? Yeah, they're really good. They get overshadowed. I asked James, I said, you want more production out of your wide receivers. Are you not getting that because Tyler Warren gets all the sugar? And he said, no. And, he keeps saying, I want more out of the wide receivers. Then you look around and you go, well, they're doing pretty dang good. There's 4 or 5 of them, and Drew knows how to spread it around, and his pass completion yardage, has gone up, as like 3 yards compared to a year ago. So he doesn't look like the same check down, swing pass guy that we saw a lot last year. At least that's what I thought when I saw you guys in person.
Yeah, no, it's the poise. I mean, you and I both know the touchdown pass to Singleton that tied the game up in the Coliseum was the 4th read. the play that you called so beautifully at the end with Warren, that was supposed to go to Singleton. I don't know if he makes that play a year ago, in that situation. I just think he's just been a far more poised and controlled quarterback, Brad.
Yeah, and, talking to him and Jenny talking to him after the game, that just kind of a big young guy and kind of shy and all that, he's a different dude. There's more fire, there's more leadership, more everything that you expect a guy that's more mature and been around the system long enough to know what's going on.
Now, look, you did a lot of games in the SEC, so there are always a lot of big games. Now, in this scenario with the Big Ten in particular, what is the 12-team playoff, in your opinion, meant to what we saw in November in terms of the perception of how big games happen to be?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, Steve, is that it kept everybody's interest, and everybody's going to be interested until what time are we going to be done on? About 11:30 on Saturday night.
Yeah,
everybody's going to be glued to all the championship games because there's still movement to be made with who's going to the playoff, where you're seated in the playoff. So from that standpoint, I think it's made. Everybody thought the regular season wouldn't matter. The regular season mattered, and it's mattering. Right through tomorrow and Saturday and up until the selection thing on Sunday. So I think it's been good from that standpoint. There's going to be a lot of griping, from who didn't get in and who got too many in and all that. But, we knew that was coming. And even if they go to 16 in a couple years or 14, that's still going to happen. It's just like the NCAA tournament. Well, it's going to have a bubble that bursts somewhere, and somebody's going to have hard feelings that they should have been in there and that some other conference got too much and one conference didn't get enough. So, but anyway, it's kept everybody's attention all the way through.
I do have to ask you, because I never saw Indiana in person this year. You saw them. They ended up 11-1. How good is that football team?
I don't think I'd want to play them, depending on where they play. I don't think I'd want to play them in the playoff because I think everybody thinks they had a super soft schedule, and their schedule was not great. But, those schedules, a lot of that stuff's done 8 years ago. So, whoever they put in front of them, with the exception of Ohio State, they knocked them off, and some of them they blew out. They're beating people by 35 points and stuff. Yeah. And I don't care who you're playing, Sisters of the Poor. You start beating people by 4 and 5 touchdowns, you're pretty good. And, they've got a couple guys on their defensive line that I would want to play for me, and their quarterback is savvy, and, good backs, receivers are decent. I don't know if Gert can do that whole thing again. He's not going to have 13 guys he can bring from James Madison next time, but yeah. I think he'll recruit, as everybody will, differently from here on out. They'll take half recruits and the other half transfers and portal guys and try to blend it together like he's blended together. You got to give him credit. I don't care how many guys he got that came with him, James Madison. They were all good players, and he's made them better players at a higher level. So, their first drive against Ohio State in that game, they took it right down the field. I was like, wow, this is going to be an awesome game. Yep. And then they had a screw up on punt, on special teams, and all of a sudden they were, behind the 8 ball the rest of the game, and they couldn't get out of their own way. So I think they could have played Ohio State better and kept that a 2-score game, and people would look at it and go, yeah, they're pretty good. But just because they got blown out, everybody thinks they're not.
Finally, Brad, you've got 1 versus 3 on Saturday night. Any themes that you want to tell us that you guys want to hit, at least to start the game out?
No, I think we'll just beat that to death. We got number 1 against number 3, and we got the newcomer against the old comers. Although it's not a Penn State not being an original Big Ten team, but they've been around a long time in the Big Ten, and so this is what people ask for: coast to coast conference. And we got one side playing the other side. That should be a blast.
And it will be, and I can't wait to see you on Saturday night, my friend. Thanks so much for the valuable time today. I really appreciate it.
You got it, Steve. I'll see you on Saturday, buddy.